All right. Thank you, Latrice, for joining me on Love is Patient this week as we are continuing our discussion on blended family. It is so good to have you all the way from North Carolina.
Yay!
Good to have you. Latrice Scott, just to give a little introduction, is um, one of my friends that I met at the University of Pittsburgh. Oh my goodness, some quite a few years ago. And she is one of the young ladies that I met there that was very instrumental in grooming me to become the Christian woman that I am today. She was, in fact, the first um, PK that I ever met. I was so impressed to know that she was a daughter of a pastor, and we became very good friends. We met at a Nesby meeting and became very good friends based on our involvement in the National Society of Black Engineers, where I was studying to be an engineer and she was in computer science. So we met there, and I am grateful just to have her in my life. After we met, we became very good friends, and then we continued our friendship down through the years. And I'm so grateful to have you on Love is Patient. Um, Tree supports me in everything that I do, and I wanted her to come on today and tell her story. So we're talking about blended families, and Latrice, I'm just going to allow you to share. Um, we didn't even think about.
Lady Ina, for thinking of me to have me on your show. It's been such a blessing to me. I'm so excited to see what God is doing in your life and how He had taken us, as you referred to, some years ago, long before my gray kicked in. But but yes, to see how the Lord has blossomed you. And who would have thought that you would also become a preacher's wife, a first lady back then? You know, we were just trying to get our education
So,
and trying to live saved the best way we knew how. And the Lord kept us. So
yes,
that was a blessing and a testament to even, be able to have a friend such as you back then that we could pray together, do the things so much that we did back then. Now that I think about it, memories come through with the Bible studies and
yes,
everything that we started on campus, some of God's children, the ambassadors for Christ.
yes.
We did so much, but so yes, to fast forward years to now, it's just a blessing that we're still together. I
Yes.
know for you, for me, anytime I need something, we don't talk every day. We might not even talk monthly. However, if I was to need anything, you're the type of friend that all I have to do is call upon you and you're there. So I thank you and I appreciate that. So
So,
let me get into my little my story. And basically it's a long story, but I'm going to try to sum it up here a little bit. So I was in North Carolina and I was uh, at an internship with IBM. And it was
mhm.
an internship I got through National Society of Black
Yes.
Engineers, just like Ina was saying. And I worked for IBM in North Carolina for 3 summers. Actually, I think this was going on
Wow.
my third summer. And in the meantime, I decided I was going to stay down there after my internship ended. And had enrolled into North NC State and was getting ready to go to school and all of that wonderful stuff. And, the Lord told me to go home.
Mm.
It was just like that instantly. He told me to go home. And when I went home, I moved in with Ina and our
Mhm.
dear friend Tammy, and we stayed on North Craig Street apartment. And
Yes, you did.
I went back and forth, back and forth home. And there's
Mhm.
stories we can tell about that North Craig Street apartment. And
Oh,
but
yes.
anyway, they will save that for another episode. But I lived in Newcastle, so I went moved home to Pittsburgh, where I was going back to school there at Pitt, and then I also moved was going back and forth home, and to support my dad and to be there at the church and whatever he needed at the church, I was there. As you know, PK, you do whatever you have
That's
to
right.
do. So you wear many hats. So I went back home to help out the ministry. And in the meantime, that's where I met my husband. And at the time, I didn't know it was going to be my husband. But the Lord told me that this is your husband. And I rebuked God because I wasn't receiving it. It's like, no way, no way. This man has three children. And, I have to get my education. I'm
Right.
getting my bachelor's in computer science, and I don't have time for this. And the Lord just kept bringing it to me, and I kept dismissing it till one
Mhm.
day it just so happened that his children, now his first, let me back up, his first wife, she did pass. And so he was widowed. He had three children that he was raising. And the two youngest, the two oldest boys, and they had a baby girl. um, she was about 13 months at the
Mm,
time. But
mm,
anyway,
mm.
the two little boys who were 6 and 4 at the time, they happened to go to my dad's church. Their grandmother, she went there. Their mother's mother, she went there to my dad's church.
Mhm.
And after church one day, I'm singing the choir, minding my own business, not thinking about these little kids that I already know that the Lord told me that they was gonna be my kids and that
Mm,
their
mm,
daddy was
mm,
gonna be my husband. But they sought me out after church one day and came running up to me and they said to me, "We want you to be our new mommy." And so at that point, I could have fainted because
mm, mm.
I'm like, oh my God, Lord, why are you doing this to me? Why are you punking me like this, God? So sure enough, I said to them, you know what, babies? You keep on praying. God is going to
Ah.
send you a mommy. No good and well, I was the mommy. so so they tell me this, and I was like, Lord have mercy. And so a few months went by, and they was always gravitating to me,
Mm.
always. And I said, Lord, I don't want to have any parts to do with this. This is going to be very complicated. You
Yeah.
know how they put on Facebook, it's complicated. Well,
Yeah.
long before they started that, I was like, this is complicated, God. But
Yes.
being that I prayed and I told the Lord, whoever you send me, I need to know first. And so God had to take a situation like that and to flip it so that it was very unconventional, it was complicated, so that I would know that it was Him.
Mm.
Prior to that, not saying that I'm all that. I just had a lot of guys trying to get me to marry
Mhm. I
them. And
remember.
I was like, no, 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 no. And I had gotten so tired of it. So anyway, be careful what you pray for, because that's what I
Mhm.
prayed for. I said, Lord, let me know who it is first before anybody else come to me talk about I'm their wife. So that's what the Lord did. He let me know first, then he sent the voice to confirm it, to literally pick me and say, we want you to be our mommy. So some time went by, and one day I was at my my husband, now his sister-in-law's house, because her and I were good friends, and the boys were there. So they were playing with me, and I didn't know that their dad was coming to pick them up. And so, sure enough, he comes in to pick them up. And my sister, oh, back then, she was my good friend, but kind of like my sister in law now,
Mhm.
since we're blended.
Right.
But she said they called him Junior back then, but she said, Junior and Trees, go get the pizza for the boys. I didn't feed them. And I was like, what? I was like, oh my God, I want to go anywhere with this
Set up.
man. And
That's a setup.
I couldn't get out of it. And so we went and got the pizza, and we talked and we talked. He wanted my phone number, and the rest is history. So we
Wow.
ended up getting married. I was obedient to God. I instantly became a mother. of three children, one being again a baby. And the interesting thing about my baby daughter at the time, she was very finicky, would not go to anybody.
Mm,
Very few people she would go to. So, but when she met me,
mm.
she came to me instantly. So I'll say all three of them chose me. Even she was a baby and she chose me to be her mother. And it was
Wow.
it wasn't easy. It
Mhm.
wasn't easy. And not really with the kids, because one of the things I always try to do is let them know I'm not trying to replace your mother. Even as they got older, just let them know that, this, I'm here, but
Yes.
I'm not, I can't replace her at all. And, anytime that I could, definitely would share what I knew about her, because she was older than me, probably about 7 or 8 years older than me, but I knew her because they lived on the same street as we lived on.
Oh,
That's why we
wow.
have as friends. Yeah, with her younger siblings, they were my age. And so
Mm,
she was older. So I just remember she would braid my hair when I was younger, because she braided everybody's hair on the street. It's just amazing, and that the Lord would have picked me, and I felt honored to be their
wow.
mother. And my husband often tells the story about when she was passing, how she told him to find a good wife to raise my children. She like literally gave him permission to do that. You know what I
Whew.
mean? And so he didn't find me. The kids found me.
Oh, my
And the
God.
God had prepared me, but the kids found me. And then he ended up, meeting me because of the kids found me. So it's just an amazing story. Some of the things that we have gone through as a family. It's been difficult, the my husband has had a heart transplant. So he's really been, I would say, within probably the first 5 years of marriage, he has been sickly with heart attacks
Wow.
after heart attacks after heart attacks. And then finally in 2010, he had to have a heart transplant.
Wow.
And then 10 years later, now he is on. Trying to get a kidney because his kidneys failed. So he's on dialysis. So lots of sickness.
Yes.
And when they were younger, I was like, Lord, I would hate for them to lose their
That's
biological
right.
father. They've already lost their mother. So
Mhm.
it was very, very, a lot of conversations with God and, with my children, and just really, just dealing with that aspect of it. Then another thing that tickled me was a lot of times people that I went to high school with, I would see them, they would ask me how many kids I had. So I would tell them, oh, I have seven. And so what ended as the years progressed, I had three already. And then I had three of my own. And
Yes.
then I adopted my goddaughter. So we really became blended.
Wow.
And what ended up happening after that, oh my, go, go. I have a little one. It's company. I'm so sorry, Lady Ina.
That's all right.
Oh gosh. So in high school, I mean, people that I went to school with, they would be like, so how many children do you have? I said, oh, I have seven. Then they start to do their math, and they were
Of
like,
course.
well, you weren't pregnant in school. How do you have a child that's 16? And
Uh-huh.
so I never once said, well, these three children are my not foster, my stepkids, and that's one of the words that I
Wow. Wow.
never
Wow.
introduced into our
Mhm.
family dynamic,
Yes.
because I am who God sent them. I was their mother. I never made them call me mother. They
Mhm.
automatically called me mother. But it's just funny because they would be doing the math trying to figure out how I had seven children. And
Yes.
now, years later, I have about 22 grandchildren and one great grandchild. So,
22.
it's,
Wow. Oh
yes,
my
yes,
goodness. That's
yes.
what a
So,
blessing.
it is a blessing, but,
Mm, mm,
it's
mm.
just dealing with the blended piece. It definitely has challenges, and many of my challenges came from just people did not understand, didn't understand the
Mm-hmm.
process. Many times when you deal with people that don't know the Lord, things of God are complicated. When
They
you
are.
don't, it's complicated when you know God, but when you don't know Him, and people trying to figure out, and people mad at
Mm.
us because they were saying while his wife was sick that we were together, and that's why the Lord had me in North Carolina. I was
You didn't
nowhere
even
near
know
that
him, right?
situation,
Yeah.
right? And then when he sent me home, you know, that was when she had passed. He sent me home, but who knew? I sure didn't, but God
Who
knew.
knew?
So
Yes.
just trying to help people process things, that were a little bit upset about the marriage and the union. But we know scripture says what God has put together, let no
No
man put
man.
asunder. And gosh, I'm trying to
Mm-hmm.
see here how many years. It's over 30 years that we've been married, and
Yes.
through thick and through thin, and definitely love is patient.
Yes, it
Okay.
is. Yes, it
Love is
is.
patience, because I had that. I love God, that I would obey God and do what He said to do. But I also have to reflect God's love even through this union for the people that did not understand. I
Mm.
couldn't be mad at them because they just did not understand. So I had to be patient and had to show the love of God. And even now, you know, her mother, my husband's first wife's mother, we're really close.
Wow. Oh
You
my
would think
God.
that she had me like I was her
Mm-hmm.
daughter, and we just have a beautiful family dynamic. I call them my in-laws, but technically they are, but then again they aren't. But you would never
Wow.
know. Um, One of the things that I also prayed for was that my kids would look alike, so that my
Mm.
biological kids would look like my
Yeah.
my other kids. And so God did just that. And it is so funny because as they were growing up and going to schools, and you know um people see me like with my baby daughter, at the time, they would
Mm.
be like, "Oh my God!" Even now, people say, "Oh,
Mm.
you look just like your mother."
Yeah.
And so that we look at each other and we just
Oh,
laugh. We're like, "Oh,
beautiful.
yes," but we never say, I am so blessed. She's never said, "Oh, that's not my real
Right,
mother."
right.
She's never said anything like that. And none of my children have said that, even my boys. And I just say that I am very blessed in this situation, and that's why I know that it was God that blended us together for Him to get the glory.
Yes.
So my message out of that is, when you're coming together, and you're dating or what have you, you definitely have to let God lead you and guide you. And when He sends you somebody and puts you together, and when it's God, it will last, regardless of what the situation is. Is it going to be 100% perfect? Of course not.
Mhm.
Of course not. But when God is in it, it will last.
Yes.
That's
Thank
kind of
you
a
so
snippet of
much.
it.
That was a beautiful story. I see so much beauty in your story.
Thank
Um,
you.
how the Lord just planned for you to be their mother. How the Lord just planned for you to be your husband's wife. He sent you home. So many beautiful things about it. When God is in it, it meshes together. Like you said, it's not perfect, but it meshes together. And
Yes.
at the end of it, you have to say, "My God, that was him." So much beauty in it. One thing I wanted to mention out of what
Mhm.
you said, and I found to be true, is your verbiage and your language is so important when blending a family. You
Yes.
said that you never introduced step or half or any of
Mhm.
that into your family dynamic. And I think that that's a very important key to blending a family. I remember as I was being blended into my dad's poor family. And, I don't like to say stepmom, but I say stepmom so that people can understand that I have a mother and my
Mhm.
dad is remarried. However, she never called me her stepdaughter. She
Mhm.
always said daughter. And I think that verbiage is so important. I took that and adopted it into my family now. I
Mhm.
call Dominique my daughter.
Yes.
Anybody else, y'all, you could fill in the blanks, but I call her my daughter.
That's
We all
right.
know what's going on. We know um, when she came into my life and so forth, but I think it's so important. The verbiage is so important. And
Mhm.
probably as a result of that, she doesn't call me stepmom. She calls me her bonus mother, and so I never taught Kenneth, Shaka, and Simone that was anything but their sister. I think verbiage is so important. Another thing another reoccurring theme that comes up in blended families is many times the people within the blended family are fine. They have a full understanding of what's happening, what's going on, the acceptance is there, and the family unit is fine. It's people on the outside that don't understand, and I think you put that beautifully. I think you described that beautifully. That's when the where the patience comes
Mhm.
in a situation where your family unit is fine. It's just getting others to understand that we're okay.
Right.
We're working it out over here. We're really
Right.
okay. And that's when the patience comes in for others. And I've had to be patient in that regard as well. Never thought about it like that till you really brought that out that we have to be patient with others that fully don't understand our commitment, our
Yeah.
assignment.
Amen. Amen.
Our assignment. Maybe you don't understand our assignment, but um, that's why I said in the previous broadcast that if you have a concern about somebody in a blended family, what's going on in a blended family, and you want to confront the situation, be careful. Be
Yes.
careful. If you're not a part of a blended family, some dynamics you really are not going to be privy of. Some parts of it you're really not going to understand unless you've been a part of a blended family.
Mhm.
So I just appreciate everything that you mentioned about your story. I think it was very well said the way that you described it. I almost don't have any questions for you because you described it so well, but I love the way you described the verbiage, the language is so very important. And I would say to anybody that's blending a family, be careful of your language because your
Mhm.
language really should reflect your goals for your relationship. It really should. The other thing I want to bring out that I thought was beautiful about your experience was the acceptance part. I think acceptance is so important on
Mhm.
both sides, for you to come to a point in your experience where you accepted the fact that, wow, I'm going to be the mother, I'm going to be his wife. You accepted that. And then in turn, probably before you accepted it, they found you and accepted you as their mother.
That's
Having
right.
lost their mother, how old were the boys when that happened?
Um, they were 6, 4.
Yeah, 6 and 4. That's really young to come up
Mhm.
to somebody and say, you know what I'm saying? The acceptance. That's one of the most beautiful things that I think anybody in our situation can experience. Acceptance from a
Yeah.
young child that you didn't birth, but
Yeah.
that you know you're going to take part in their development either
Mhm.
as their mom, maybe part time, full time, whatever it is, that acceptance is something that almost can't be described. It can't be described. So
That's
I think that's one of the beautiful things that comes out of a blended family.
mhm.
Some of these things are preordained, they're just
Yeah.
worked out prior to, beforehand. And I think your story is a perfect example of a situation that was so complicated, as you described it, so um, non traditional.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, look what God has done. You not only have three children that you started out with, but you have four more. And from those seven children, you have 22 grandchildren. And it's probably the stories are not over yet.
No, it's
It's
not.
not over yet. So I think that it's a beautiful story. If you could
Mhm.
give a parting word, or if you could give some advice to a young mother, young wife that is in a process of blending her family, what would you say?
I would tell them that first of all, you have to really know that you're supposed to be a part of that child's life. Whether you're going to marry or whether you're going to even if you're dating, and be introduced to that child, or if vice versa, if you already have children and, your significant other is going to be introduced to your children, you really have to know that this is important because what you don't want to do is to be introducing, especially if they're much younger, people in and out of their lives because they get attached. And I just look at like my grandchildren, two of them live with me. And my one granddaughter, she calls everybody daddy. And it's like, okay, baby, that's not your daddy. It doesn't matter who it is
Yeah.
to come a visitor. It could be the mailman coming.
Wow.
so it just shows that children, they will attach themselves, and you don't want your children to be seeing people coming in and out and so forth of your life. And but you have to know that this person is who I want to be with, and this is what God is saying. If you have a relationship with God, and know that, and you have to really think about the children. And that's why I was blessed, because the children came to me, and I technically did not want to be involved in that situation because I was had my own life that I was trying to live. But God said, no, we're gonna put you on pause for a minute,
Uh-huh.
and we're gonna do this right here.
Mhm.
And as you referred to it, Lady Ina, is my assignment at that time, and still is, to my children and my husband, and making sure that blended family is what God wants it to be. But that would be the advice. Just make sure you are sure
Yes.
that you should be in this particular situation. And, a lot of times children, they can pick up on certain things.
Yes, they
And if
can.
your child is not accepting someone, and especially
Mm-hmm.
if they're younger, um, I would say teenagers, they kind of have their own mindset, But my kids were young, and they picked me. So I mean, kids feel things. They know. They when they're little like that, they know who they can trust. And if that child, just like I was saying, my younger daughter, she was 13 months. She wouldn't go to anybody, but
Mm-hmm.
she came to me like readily, which shocked me. Which again, it was God. So if your child is like don't want to be around that person, um,
That's a
that
clue.
yeah, it's a red flag. You may
Yeah.
want to reassess the situation, and you may want to wait. So don't rush into things. It's love is
Yes, it
patient.
is. It
So
is.
if that person loves you, that they will be patient. They will wait. If it's to be, it will be. So just be careful. Make sure that you look for signs and signals, even from your children, before you take that plunge into that relationship, into that blended family. And most of all, just make sure that it is God. I will say this, as a result of, and I see it now, as a result of how I was with my children when we were blended. Now I have three daughters who all have blended families. My
Wow.
my two daughters, they married their husband, had three children,
Mm-hmm.
and my one daughter,
Mm-mm-mm.
So that's how I have a great grandchild already. Because they were like, I think they were 15 and they were
Okay.
teenagers when they got together.
Oh
So
my
so I have a great
goodness.
grandchild already. But they, my daughters and my other daughter, her husband had two children when they
Okay.
got married. So, you know, they learned how
Mhm.
to love, how to be patient, how to accept other children into the family based off of what they experienced,
Right, right.
when they were growing up and how
Hmm.
I treated them. So, if you're not ready for something like this, I would say back up because it will impact the child.
That's it.
And I think the
Hmm.
children are what's most important in these types of situations. Oftentimes we just want to be selfish and we think about ourselves and
Right.
I'm in love,
Hmm.
but we have to be mindful of the children in the blended families and just all throughout even now. And I'm blessed because there's scripture in Proverbs that talk about your children shall rise up and call you blessed, and I'm experiencing that now. And it just brings tears to my I just tear up because I just think about everything that we've gone through. What back when I was a young mother, one of the mothers of the church, she spoke into my life and she said that, you know what, your children are going to one day thank you,
Hmm.
and they're going to rise up and they're going to bless you. They're going to bless you and they're going to be a huge blessing to you. And I am seeing that now, and I just like, wow, God, you just are so true to every
Yes,
single thing, and I just it's just a blessing.
it
It is
is.
just
It
a
is.
blessing. So,
And I
but
think part of your blessing, you mentioned about the pause. God put you on pause because you
yes.
had some aspirations. You had some things that you wanted to do. You wanted
Hmm.
to complete your schooling. You wanted to become this computer scientist. You wanted to get back to IBM. I remember you being an organist at a church in North Carolina when we were in school. I just like this. My friend is like, my God, she's so multifaceted. She even plays she's playing for a church in North Carolina. But anyway, God put all of that on pause,
Yes, it did.
but He allowed you to pick it back up
Yeah.
after you raised your children. You
Hmm.
had you and Alan had children together, and after that was stabilized. Tell us about what you were able to do and the degree that you just attained.
Oh,
I want you to
well,
talk
yes.
about that because, if God's going to do something, He's going to do the whole thing. And you've come
Amen.
full circle. So I want you to
Amen.
just talk about that, just briefly talk about how you were able to pick it back up after the pause.
Yes, yes, yes. So, absolutely. When we had gotten married, we had some opposition, as I spoke of earlier. One of them being my father, who said it was not God that we got married. Yeah, he kind of went awful because he knew that I was on a path to, do this and
Right,
that, and he
right.
expected greatness from me. So far, far be it from me to say God is telling me to marry a man that already has three children. And by the way, his wife passed. So anyway, I was
Oh,
young. I was only 21 years old. I was
yes, I
young,
remember.
and so obviously, I could understand. Again, I had to be patient why he was feeling some kind of way. So nonetheless, he had told us to get out of his house with that foolishness, and a couple of days later, now we're talking about the pastor, that
Pastor.
pastor. And a couple of days later, the Lord had dealt with him,
Mm,
and he brought us back together, and he said, "I see God's hand in this,"
mm,
and
mm,
he
mm.
basically put a stamp of approval on it, and he literally has been our in our corner ever since. But
Mhm,
it was just funny. So nonetheless, my husband, because he knew the sacrifices I was making, he
mhm.
said one day you're going to go back to school and I want you to get your PhD. Now at that time I was, I was couple. I had to finish my bachelor's, so I'm like, look, dude, I'm all I'm trying to do is get my bachelor's one
Right.
day. I'm not trying to do all that. As time had it, I was able to get the bachelor's degree. I was
Mhm.
able to go back and get my master's
Mm, mm,
degree,
mm.
and now I am on track to have my PhD. I've completed all the coursework, and all I have to do is write my dissertation. So I'm classified as a PhD candidate, meaning I've
Yes.
completed everything, and all I have to do is finish my dissertation, and then I will be Dr. Latrice Scott. So,
Woo!
yeah, thank you, Lord. But
That is wonderful.
again, it's to God be the glory.
Yes.
To God be the glory.
Yes.
And that they always say, I know this is not in the Bible, but I like it.
Uh-huh.
Delayed is not denied.
Right. That's
So
right.
I got better than what, if I had gotten that bachelor's, who's to say that I would have went on to, work on a PhD or anything
Right.
like that. Only God knows, but I think one of the main things is with my husband's sickness, we live it day by day.
Yes.
And one of the things I would love for him to see, for me to get that PhD before he goes home to be with the Lord. And
Yes.
that's my goal. And so
Mm.
everything works out. I should be able to complete my dissertation definitely by the end of this year, and
Wonderful.
be able to be capped and receive my credentials.
All right. We'll be right there celebrating that because it is well deserved. You have put in so much time, so much effort, and so much love into this family. And for that, I know your husband is so proud. And he knows beyond a shadow of a doubt that he made the right decision. And so did you. So I just want to thank you for sharing your beautiful story about your blended family and how,
Yeah,
after the Lord put your plans on pause, you were able to actually exceed your own expectations for career, uh, job, and you are on track to become Dr. Latrice Scott. And aside from that, you have seven beautiful children, your
yeah,
husband, and you are still married after 30 plus years, and you have 22 grandchildren, and the saga continues.
yes.
You are training your children to have
Amen.
blended families. And so that is a whole nother dimension that the Lord has allowed you to
Yes.
experience
Yes, yeah.
and to experience the fruit thereof. So we thank you for being on Love is Patience. Thank you for sharing your story. We
Yes.
appreciate that.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure, and just really excited for what God is doing in your ministry as well.
Good morning. Good morning.
All right. We'll
Thank you
talk
for
soon.
coming in
Okay,
on
bye
number
bye.
12.